The courtroom was thick with tension as Kathy's attorney rose, his measured tone echoing in the silent room. Your Honor, my client requests a counseling session to try and save her marriage. She believes that with the proper support, this relationship can be repaired. Almost immediately, my own lawyer stood up, exuding unwavering confidence. Your Honor, Mr. Porter has made it explicitly clear he has no interest in reconciliation. The facts are undeniable. Mrs. Porter has been involved in multiple extramarital affairs and is now carrying a child conceived with one of her lovers. My client's sole aim is to move forward with the divorce. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom, matching my inner disbelief. I gripped my hands tightly, keeping a neutral expression while trying to hold on to some semblance of strength. Yet Kathy's lawyer pressed on. There was a trace of desperation in his voice as he pleaded. Though my client admits past mistakes, she still believes that counseling can bring closure and perhaps even patch some of the hurt. My frustration flared. I leaned in, keeping my voice steady but forceful. Your Honor, I appreciate the court's time, but I have absolutely no interest in counseling. Too much has happened. This marriage is irreparable. I simply want the divorce. Kathy's lawyer briefly scanned his notes before addressing the judge once more. Your Honor, aside from the marital issues, we must consider the welfare of the unborn child. Counseling is vital to ensure that, for everyone's sake, especially the child's, stability and support can be achieved. He paused, glancing at his client, who sat fuming. I couldn't hold back my pent-up anger any longer. I stood abruptly, words tumbling out before I could catch myself. I have zero interest in raising a child that isn't mine. That cheating, worthless woman can let her lover take responsibility. I'm done with any form of counseling alongside you, Mr. Porter. Another word and I will hold you in contempt of court, he roared at me. A collective gasp filled the room as I caught a fleeting glimpse of Kathy, her face pale, lips pressed into a tight line. The judge peered over his glasses, his eyes narrowing. And then, after a moment that felt like an eternity, he spoke in a controlled yet firm tone. Mr. Porter, while I understand your emotions, this court must consider all factors, including the emotional well-being of everyone involved. I am ordering both parties to attend counseling sessions as a last constructive attempt. I will not tolerate further hostility. I scowled, barely containing my disdain as he continued. You are ordered to participate in counseling, 2 sessions per week for 1 month. I glowered back, and with a final bang of the gavel, that was it. A week later, the atmosphere in the counseling room was suffocating. The counselor, a composed, middle-aged man with glasses that perched perfectly on his nose, sat across from us, his hands resting calmly on a notepad. Kathy sat beside me, nervously fidgeting with the fabric of her sweater. Ben, Kathy began, voice trembling, I just want to say, don't, I snapped coldly. Keep your mouth shut. I'm not here to listen to your endless apologies. Mr. Hensley, the counselor, looked between us with quiet determination. Ben, I know this is hard, but we're here to open a dialogue. It's uncomfortable, true, but speaking up might help us move forward. Will you try? I crossed my arms, jaw tightening. I'm here only because the judge ordered it. I'll attend, but I'm not participating. Silence fell over us as Mr. Hensley scanned for any sign of willingness. Finally, he sighed and said, I know this is painful, but communication is the first step toward understanding, even if it doesn't lead to reconciliation. After an hour, Mr. Hensley concluded, Okay, doctor, good session. See you Thursday? I retorted that I was canceling future sessions and would send the report to the judge immediately. The judge was far from pleased. Give me one reason why I shouldn't hold your client in contempt, he growled at my lawyer. Your Honor, you ordered my client to attend 1 session, which he did, but the counselor ended it immediately, feeling there was no point in proceeding. The judge slammed his gavel decisively. I'm ordering 4 weeks of counseling. Mr. Porter, you will attend, and you will participate. With that, the office returned to its unchanged setup, 2 chairs facing a barren desk adorned only with a yellow legal pad and a picture of a charming woman in her 30s with a small child beside her. Mr. Porter, please take a seat again, the counselor instructed. As I started moving my chair, Kathy reached out to stop me, and I almost jumped back. If you try anything, I'll consider it assault and knock you down, I warned harshly. You understand? Kathy gasped, her voice trembling. Reluctantly, I resumed my seat and pulled out my phone. Mr. Porter, the court has ordered that you participate in this session, the counselor reminded me. Yes, I replied evenly. I'm recording this session for my records. Some counselors have their own agendas, and since my soon-to-be ex-wife has seen you for a while, I worry about potential biases. Mr. Hensley tilted his head calmly. And what if I ask you not to record the sessions? He asked directly. Then I'll return to court and request a different counselor, I answered firmly. That option is available. I only resisted to avoid further delays. I just want to rid my life of this cheating, unfaithful woman. Mr. Hensley then turned to Kathy, who sat with crossed arms, eyes downcast. Kathy, how do you feel about these sessions being recorded? She shrugged dismissively. Whatever, she muttered, clearly impatient. Can we begin? Mr. Hensley said, folding his fingers. Before we start, I interrupted icily. May I ask one question? Of course, he said kindly. You may ask questions at any time, though I might ask you to refrain during certain points. I looked straight at him, voice blunt. Have you slept with her yet? Kathy gasped sharply, but Mr. Hensley remained unfazed. No, Ben, he replied evenly. Kathy and I have never, nor will we ever, engage in any intimacy. It's completely inappropriate, especially since I am happily married. I stared at him, digesting his words despite all the rumors swirling around Kathy. Once convinced, Mr. Hensley continued, Let's set some expectations. Since you two have already exchanged words off and on, I'd like Kathy to outline her goals for these sessions first. Then, Ben, you will have the opportunity to speak. Kathy, please share what you hope to achieve. Before anyone could react, I blurted out, My goal is simple, to watch her suffer a slow, agonizing death from an incurable disease. That's what I want. Mr. Hensley shook his head and looked to Kathy, visibly shaken by my words. Kathy, please tell me what you truly want Ben to hear, he urged gently. Kathy took a shaky breath. I want him to understand how sorry I am for the hurt I caused. I know I made mistakes because I felt so alone while he was busy with work and travel. I truly believe that if given a second chance, I could be the best wife, the best partner, and we could even raise our child together as a family. Mr. Hensley offered a small, supportive nod. Thank you, Kathy. Now, Ben, your turn. I roared, My feelings mean nothing. She's already dead to me. She might as well write her apologies on paper and shove them where the sun don't shine. Overcome by my words, Kathy burst into tears and fled the room. Go crash into something and die, I shouted after her. That isn't helpful at all, Mr. Hensley remarked, his tone steady, yet laced with concern. I'm not trying to help. I just want to be free of her and rebuild my life from the wreckage she's left behind. I stood up, eyes locked on Mr. Hensley. Is that considered participation? I snarled before turning and leaving the session. A week later, I approached Mr. Hensley's office alone. Let's try one-on-one for now. It'll count toward your order, he suggested calmly. I don't care about being constructive, I snapped, plopping down into a chair and setting an envelope on my lap. I just want these sessions to end so I can finally rid myself of this unfaithful stranger. Please refrain from name-calling, Mr. Hensley said firmly. It's not constructive. I never wanted to be here in the first place, I retorted, but she's determined to inflict as much pain on me as possible. She can't force me into reconciliation, especially with the prenup leaving her with nothing. And don't even get me started on the child. Mr. Hensley probed gently. The child is innocent. Shouldn't he be protected? I scoffed. By your logic, I should take in every stray person who couldn't keep it together. That kid means nothing to me. He pressed on. You clearly loved her deeply at one point. That kind of love doesn't just vanish overnight. Yes, your anger is raw now, but once it dies down, you might discover there's still something worth salvaging. His words provoked the urge to strike back. You have a perfect family picture there, Mr. Hensley. I pointed at the image on his desk. Married for 11 years, a college sweetheart turned spouse, and little Ethan, about 9 years old. Tell me, how long did it take you to build that? Before he could respond, I continued with a cutting revelation. Did you know your dear Cheryl hides secrets too? While she claims to be at Pilates every Wednesday, she's actually seen at a seedy motel with her personal trainer. His face went pale as I flashed photos of a slender woman entering a hotel room with a young, muscular man. I placed a DVD on his desk, warning, "This footage is graphic, if you're brave enough to see the truth." I added, "And here's a DNA report." His voice broke softly. "No, please God, no." I coldly explained, "That report belongs to her baby. I merely swapped names and dates." Shock and disbelief washed over him as he sat there, tears streaming silently. "Why would you do this?" he choked, voice tremulous. "What did you hope to achieve by destroying my marriage?" he pleaded. "That wasn't my intention originally," I replied sharply. "I had to let you feel the loss, the searing pain I endure daily. Forcing me to sit here and listen to her claims of love just makes me relive that agony every day." "Isn't there a law against cruelty and unusual punishment?" I demanded. "I just want to move on, to piece my life back together. Why won't you let me?" Gathering the documents, I shoved them into the envelope and said, "Dispose of these as you'll see fit." My tone softened ever so slightly. "I truly regret having to do this, but you needed to understand." Later in court, my lawyer addressed the judge formally. "Your Honor, I have the report from the mandated counseling sessions. As stipulated, even after 3 sessions, the counselor deems this marriage irreparable for everyone's benefit, including the child." The judge's eyes narrowed, flipped through the pages. "Therefore, I order the divorce be finalized per the petition." He then recited, "There will be no alimony. Since Miss Kathy earns more than Mr. Porter, both parties shall retain their premarital assets and the remaining sum divided evenly." The relief was palpable. No longer would I be financially entangled with Kathy. In the aftermath, word spread quickly. Kathy had lost her job, unsurprisingly, given one of her lovers was a client, and then filed suit against 7 men, demanding court-mandated DNA tests to determine the paternity of her child. The fallout was explosive. The wives of those involved swiftly filed for divorce. I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction as chaos reigned. One of those aggrieved wives even stormed the courthouse and attacked Kathy. Hearing that Kathy ended up with a bloodied, bruised face felt, in a twisted way, like cosmic justice. Kathy had given birth, but in my eyes, nothing changed. The legal cases against those 7 men lingered as a haunting reminder of the mess. Then on an ordinary afternoon, Kathy showed up at my house unannounced. Desperation mixed with entitlement etched on her face. She launched into claims about change, remorse, and an undying love that bordered on delusion. "Kathy, it's over. We're done. You made your choices, and now you must live with them," I told her firmly, determined not to be pulled back into the chaos. But she persisted, her voice rising as she tried to guilt me into reconciliation. Just then, Nancy, my girlfriend, stepped out of the kitchen. Sensing the tension, she declared sharply, "You need to leave. You're not welcome here." Kathy exploded into an abusive tirade, hurling venomous insults and trying to intimidate Nancy. I saw the fierce glint in Nancy's eyes as she faced Kathy down. In a flash, Kathy lunged at Nancy. That move proved fatal for her own schemes. Nancy, ever resilient, dodged and counterattacked, kicking and throwing Kathy to the floor. I watched in half shock, half admiration as Nancy pinned Kathy down. "Get the hell out of our lives, Kathy. You are not welcome here," Nancy shouted. Amidst the chaos, I pulled out my phone and called the cops. Kathy's screams echoed even as the officers arrived and swiftly took her into custody. As I looked at Nancy, still trembling with adrenaline, I felt a quiet sense of liberation. Before we wrap up today's story, if you're enjoying this deep dive into dramatic courtrooms and raw emotion, consider subscribing to our channel and drop a like or comment down below. Your support means the world to us and helps keep these stories coming. In the final courtroom moments, the judge reviewed the records and declared, there will be no alimony. This ruling meant I would no longer be financially bound to Kathy, who had already lost her job following her debacles. Then came the absurd twist. Kathy had filed a suit against 7 men to determine the paternity of her child. The ensuing paternity test set off a chain reaction. 7 wives eventually filed for divorce against their own husbands, all enmeshed in Kathy's scandal. The image of one aggrieved wife assaulting Kathy in the courthouse was a stark, almost poetic end to her manipulations. In the aftermath, Kathy's unannounced visit to my home was the final straw. As she begged for a second chance, I stood firm. "Kathy, it's over. I'm done with all this." Her manipulation crumbled even further when Nancy intervened. The confrontation left me with a complex mix of relief and resolve, a feeling that I was finally free to move on with my life. Thank you for listening to this tumultuous story. Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that like button. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you stories that stir the soul and challenge the heart.